What's poppin', Cougs? Welcome to Coug on the Clock. I'm Sam Taylor.
I'm Will Matthews.
In his first ever Coug on the Clock, episode 2.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Will is our VP of TV for Cable 8. So
Indeed.
when you watch our sports shows here, be sure to check out the other awesome Cable 8 content we've got. All student-run, all amazing. We've got a great show for you today. It's a baseball spectacular, as you can probably tell. We'll be talking MLB as well as some WSU baseball and our expectations for the year ahead. So let's get into it. This MLB offseason was one for the history books and for some of the wrong reasons, but also some of the right reasons. That's well, obviously there was the lockout, but there's also some free agency friends.
There was some massive trades. Some people are probably happy. Some people are probably not so much. I think the one that has been on everyone's mind has been Freddie Freeman. I mean, seeing Freddie Freeman in Dodger blue, me being a Dodgers fan, I love it, but I can also understand it's a very weird sight for a lot of people out here, especially Braves fans. I'm sure it's very tough to see that. I also think Carlos Correa to the Twins, who would have seen that coming? I mean, that was kind of out of the blue, big 3-year deal for him. So, he's off to Minnesota now. They're going to need him. I mean, it might be the spark that the Twins need to get kind of out of last place, but I think those are some of the bigger ones. Do you have any that stick out in your mind?
Yeah, so I guess I'll touch a little bit on the Correa deal as well. Obviously, the Twins, the last 2 years, they've been a team. They didn't do so well last year, but they've been a team that's kind of not been able to get over the hump. They've made the playoffs, but not been able to win anything, really. And now with Nelson Cruz off to Washington, obviously he's getting older, but he's still a great veteran presence. Mm-hmm. They need those star players, and Correa provides that.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for. How about that? How about Chris Bryant heading to the Rocky Mountains?
Yeah, I mean, that one definitely catches me off guard, on surprise. I mean, it's tough though, because the Rockies are in a very difficult situation with, 3 relatively stacked teams ahead of them. I mean, it's kind of like the AFC West in football. You got a lot of teams to get over, and even with the Chris Bryant deal, I just don't see them getting out in front of the Giants, the Dodgers, and the Padres. I think those are, 3 very tough teams to beat in their division, and even with the expanded playoffs, it's just going to be very tough to secure that wild card spot.
That's very true. If I agree a lot with that. If Chris Bryant wanted to win, a team like I'm a Mariners fan, so a little bit biased, like the Mariners.
Yeah.
Maybe the Red Sox would have been better suited, but the money he was getting, that he wanted, that he got from the Rockies, is not something that other teams are willing to give him.
Yeah.
7 years, $182 million.
It's a massive deal. I hope the Rockies are planning to bear down with Chris Bryant for a little while, but good luck to them, because they have a very difficult road ahead of them, I believe.
Chris Bryant, Russell Wilson, sounds like a rockin' neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of big trades to big old Denver over there. So, but without going into, I think, the rule changes, which we touched on a little bit there. I think one of the bigger ones that we wanted to talk about was the shift being limited, I guess, through 2023. That, I think, has that has a lot of, I guess, people a bit angry, at least on social media. I feel that me being kind of an old head, the shift, to me, I didn't always fully embrace it, but I also think limiting the shift is going to be a big hampering on kind of the creativity that these MLB teams are going to experiment with on the diamond. Obviously, good for Joey Gallo. He's going to finally get some base knocks without having to bunt it down the third base line. But yeah, I mean, that shift rule is definitely got a couple people kind of sour.
Yeah. I personally don't like it. There's a passage from the book Moneyball that I remember clearly where they talk about, the baseball, the highlight reel, they reward athleticism a lot, a player leaping, but they don't necessarily reward that mental preparedness of saying, this guy hits the ball to this spot each time, I'm going to be in that spot. Now, that doesn't prevent that. Obviously, the shift is kind of like a higher level version of that where everybody shifts over. and players who do their homework are still going to, get good results on the field. But it's, I think it's part of the game, and hitters need to overcome it.
Yeah,
but
it's
no more, I guess.
It definitely kind of blends into the Moneyball analytics heavy side of the game, and people that are big fans of that, which I know baseball appeals to that on many fronts. People that follow that aspect of the game, I think it's definitely not their favorite rule that's been implemented of these other rules.
Yeah.
But going more into, I think what a lot of people can agree the MLB did right this offseason, the playoff expansion, going to a 12-team postseason, I think is honestly a great move. I think, expanding the playoffs, getting more people interested in the postseason is definitely giving more people a reason to watch during that October series.
Definitely. There's more baseball in October, and that's exactly what people want. And you'll have those teams that'll have those extra revenue dollars from hosting a playoff game when they otherwise wouldn't have gotten to, or participating in one. And so I think, especially for the Mariners that have been out of the playoffs for so long, 21 years, looking back, I know under the current the previous now 2 wild card system, the Mariners would have made the playoffs in 03, but still wouldn't have made it. And now I guess the last time they would have made it is, I haven't looked, but 2018, 2016, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's, I think it's definitely for those teams that are right on the cusp, getting in. And I suppose if you're a fan of those teams, your main mentality is, look, if we can just get into the playoffs, like, we have a solid chance. You never know what happens in the playoffs. There's upsets all the time. And, the regular season is a very long road, so sometimes opening up that additional spot, that third wild card, maybe that gives you the spring of life once you get into the playoffs, and then you maybe go on a run. So I think, and especially in these divisions like the AL East that have just stacked teams throughout, it might feel a bit unfair to some of those teams to not have a spot in the playoffs when you got the likes of the Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Rays, the Red Sox. Like, all 4 of those teams are very capable of making the playoffs. And just, having another wild card spot, in my opinion, I think really opens up a bit more excitement in October. And, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good time. And one of the other rules is the universal DH.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on that? On having taking pitchers out of the lineup if teams choose?
I think that it really does. I haven't heard too many complaints. I think we've all been expecting it for a while. Having pitchers bat has definitely been a crutch for NL teams for the longest of time, since the inception of the sport, basically. And so I think what the MLB is trying to do, encourage more exciting gameplay, cut down on times of games, all that sort of stuff. I think it just plays into that. I'm sure if you're an old head of the sport, you may not like it. I definitely think it's, the Moneyball, going back to that, the Moneyball crowd is probably all up in arms because they think it's a great move, and it encourages more hitting-friendly games, which is what most people are here to watch. But I think, having the DH removed for some people just doesn't sit right with them.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's a recipe for more offensive success, as you said, and I think it'll be a good opportunity for players to kind of extend their careers. Previously, there was only 15 teams where they could kind of spend the elder years of their careers, and now now they can play on all 30 teams. Like Edgar Martinez, the universal, rather not the universal, but the Designated Hitter of the Year award is named after him for a reason. It's Edgar Martinez Designated Hitter of the Year award. And that's because he was able to move from third base to DH and extend his career by another 10 years. And
exactly.
That's just fantastic.
Yeah. I think a lot of teams that are struggling offensively in the NL are really going to benefit from it. I think again, baseball has been moving for a couple of years now into a more hitter-centric game, and I think this is just another rule that kind of falls into the line of encouraging that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lots of good. I guess one more rule change that we'll discuss is the ghost runner on second for extra innings.
Yeah, the California rule.
Yeah.
I mean, for all of our travel ball player watchers, I guess they're probably a bit familiar with it. Me personally, I hate it. I think it's a guaranteed run almost every inning. You just have to hit them over if you can do that and score them on a sac fly or a single. Um, I get what they're trying to do, speed up the games, but when you're a long time fan like me, I feel like when you go to a game and you get some extra free baseball, like that is a big blast. And trying to cut down on that doesn't sit right entirely with me, but I am not opposed to seeing what the MLB is trying to do with that rule, and so be it.
Yeah. I'm much of the same in that line. I obviously the asterisks next to the RBIs that come off of that are kind of a big, they're definitely a question. Now RBI is kind of a faded statistic anyway. You just have to be in the right spot in the lineup to benefit from those and to hit the ball. But I don't know. We'll see. We've seen it the last few years. It's added some immediate intensity to the game and suspense. And so,
like you said about the RBIs too, I'm sure there's some statisticians that are probably not big fans of it. The asterisks next to the RBIs, it's probably going to create maybe 2 split categories. I don't know, but it's definitely an interesting rule. But I see where the MLB is trying to go with that for sure.
Yeah, awesome. And now we'll bring it a little closer to home with some WSU baseball. Obviously, the Cougs, this was a promising season, Brian Green's 3rd season in front of the team, in charge of the team, but now they have an 8-game losing streak going into their series against Utah and only 1 conference win. What's the deal with WSU baseball?
I think, it's hard to overlook the bats right now. The bats have gone cold. There's not been a lot of scoring on this 8-game road trip where they have come back with 0 wins. If you're looking at the stats, in those 8 games, the Cougs are averaging about 2.9 runs. It's not enough to support your pitchers, even if they're throwing a gem. But it's not like the other teams aren't hitting as well. They gave up 66 runs in those 8 games, which 8.25 runs per game. Can't have that if you're going to try and win games unless you got a stacked offense. I just don't know if, right now with the bats, what we can do to get that spark going. Maybe get a couple wins in the home now. But
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do against Utah, which some of the results will already be known by the time you're watching. Utah's having a much better season. They're 15 wins, I believe, and doing really well for themselves. And kind of like, just looking back at the road trip that just happened, you got to beat UW.
yeah,
Especially, that's our huge rivalry. We're kind of in the renaissance of WSU sports. Every program's taking care of business against UW, except for WSU baseball, it appears, this year.
Apparently.
Yeah.
You got to go into UW, and you got to at least take one of those wins home. I get the Stanford series. Stanford is a very good team.
Yeah.
Pac-12 is competitive, and we have typically been at the bottom of those standings, so I'm not expecting us to go on a run right here and declare that we're going to Omaha this year. But you got to go into Seattle, and you got to take at least 1 or 2 runs home. So 2 wins home. So I think these long road series have just really been WSU's kryptonite. And with how our season was laid out, it wasn't like we weren't going to get an excess of these, long road series. But we, looking back at home, we got 16 games before the end of the season. We're standing 9-15 overall. I think we're 1-8 in conference, so not looking too good there. But if we can, secure some big wins, I'm expecting Utah to be a very good series. If we can get some wins out of Utah, I'm thinking we have a decent shot at kind of rectifying the season and going into next year.
Definitely. Yeah. That 3rd year for some coaches like Cami Etheridge and Kyle Smith, they found some real success 3rd year. In Cami Etheridge, our women's basketball coach's case, she made the NCAA tournament for the first time in 30 years last year, and then again this year. But for Brian Green in his 3rd year, maybe that postseason success isn't in store for them, but I think they'll probably find it in their 4th year.
I think what you got to do here is you just got to pick up the pieces right now. You got to finish out this season strong and then move into next year. And I think that's, obviously you never want to give up on a season halfway through it, but it's been very tough for the Cougs, and I think a lot of assets are there, but we're just going to have to keep building for the future. So
definitely.
Yeah.
And the Cougs had, just to kind of stay on baseball for a bit, they got they had 7 out of 9 starters returning, and typically that for a team that's a sign of strength. You got a lot of leaders, a lot of veterans coming back, but a lot of those established veterans have just been kind of slow at the plate. They've been slow to start, and that's something Brian Green touched on. Is just those guys haven't shown the success and they haven't gotten the results that they need to.
Yeah, I agree.
I personally, I was at the win over Oregon State in early March, and that was a come-from-behind victory. Oregon State, number 4 team in the nation at the time, and it's a really good baseball team, and the Cougs come back to win it, I believe, like 9-8. Incredible. Bryce Matthews with the walk-off hit. And honestly, it's those kind of moments that that's why we watch baseball. We watch baseball for heroics. Any team can beat any team on any given day, and that's honestly what us Cougars fans have. And I think a lot of fans have been coming out to support. They had a historic opening day weekend, and really excited to get back to Bailey Brayton this weekend.
Looking forward to that Utah series coming up, I believe, this weekend. So, it'll be let's grab some dubs there and hopefully start the right track to redemption. So,
that's right. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. Moving from WSU Baseball into, kind of the opening day for the MLB. A lot of predictions to be made, a lot of predictions that'll be right, a lot of predictions that'll probably be wrong. I want to throw the ball in your court. What are some of the predictions you got going for this season?
So, if anyone's familiar with the Mariners, you'll know that they've got this guy on their roster named Julio Rodriguez. He hasn't made his MLB debut yet, but he's been kind of tearing it up at spring ball. Lots of success in the minor leagues over the last few years. And he's got his own YouTube channel. This guy's a media mastermind. And he's got all the right tools, both on the field and off the field, to take the league at storm. And, he's going to do a really good job when he gets there. There's talks he'll probably make, well, not probably, I shouldn't say probably, but he's got a real shot to make the opening day roster, and we'll find out in just a matter of days whether that'll be true, especially with Kyle Lewis out until mid-April. So Julio Rodriguez, if he plays a full season, which he probably will, and if he has a lot of success, which I'm willing to say he will, then he's my pick for Rookie of the Year, AL Rookie of the Year.
I think that's bold of you. I commend you, Sam, for trying to make Rookie of the Year calls before a single game has been played, and particularly on a guy that there hasn't been a guarantee that he makes the roster yet. But to that, I mean, I wish you Mariners fans well with him. So
thank you.
I think moving into some of the standing predictions, I think there's a lot of easy claims to make. Starting in the NL, I think it's hard to say like the Dodgers aren't going to win the NL West. Obviously, they had a lot of competition from the Giants last year, did not win it, ended up beating them in the postseason. Anything can happen, but I think, going back to what we talked about with Freddie Freeman, also bringing back Trey Turner, some of the other, you got Cody Bellinger still in your lineup. That was another big free agent signing. You just have bats out the wazoo, no pun intended. And then you also got a great defense behind you, starting rotation. I think it's tough to deny in the NL West, Dodgers probably have that on lock. But I would not also be surprised if the Giants and the Padres are contenders for one of those extra AL wildcard or NL wildcard spots. I also believe Cardinals and Brewers are going to have a really tight fight in the Central, and I think it might come down to the last few games. And looking towards the NL East, really that could be a toss-up between the Braves and the Mets. I also think the Phillies are a strong contender for maybe a wild card spot. But yeah, I think the NL this year is going to be a very interesting one at the very least. But yeah, I want to see what maybe some of your predictions are before I continue with my
Definitely.
AL ones.
Well, it'll be cool to see the first season with a lot of NL DHs.
Yes.
And kind of the players that get more opportunity and ultimately the offense that's created from that. That'll be really neat. In the American League, I think now MLB, I think the Mariners, they've got a real shot at the AL West. The Astros kind of are kind of on the decline. The A's just sold everybody.
Yep.
So I got hope is the Mariners in the West. And then I think the Blue Jays, they may not win the East, but they'll definitely get one of those wild card spots. And they were they were the last team out, or the first team out. First team out because they were so close to Actually, yeah, blasting out's the right phrase. But, they were right on that cusp. And so I'm really hoping that the Blue Jays make some noise, as much as I dread their invasion of Seattle every year.
Yes, big presence of Blue Jays fans out here. I also am in agreement. I think it's going to be real tough between those Rays and those Blue Jays. And obviously, I think the Yankees have a really good squad this year. I think it's slightly underrated, but I believe they're better than the Red Sox. So I think the AL East is going to be definitely contentious and possibly down to the wire. But with the AL East, you never know where your prediction is going to go for sure.
Absolutely. All four of the 5 of those teams can really make some noise.
Yeah,
so.
I agree.
Sweet. Well, that's all the time we've got today for Coug on the Clock. I'd really like to thank you for joining us today and encourage you to check out Wazzu Sport. Follow us on Instagram at Wazzu Sports Network and on Twitter at Wazzu Sports Net.
Also, make sure to check out the Cable 8 YouTube, where the rest of Wazzu Sports Network's episodes are published weekly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Love you guys. Go Cougs.
Catch you next time.